So this topic has been on my mind for some time, and I think it's very suitable for every individual who plans on becoming successful to a degree based on their own personal evolution. Now, what I mean by that is, for those who expect themselves to grow beyond the person that they are, for people who expect to self-actualize beyond the person that they are, I hope that you live long enough to see your parents, people as close to you as your parents, become NPCs. You live long enough and grow so much that you begin to miss certain people while they're still here, as if they're no longer here with you. I've been going through personal evolution for some time, and it's all about mental maturity, soul maturity. The same people that raised you, that used to be on a certain level of consciousness above you, they could have been your parents. Like, for example, my dad is one of my greatest superheroes. He was always there for me, always made sure I was good, took me around the world, exposed me to being in Sudan 23, 24 times every summer. You know, even though as a kid I hated that shit, but never made me, or never allowed me to feel like I was without. You know, my mother, I respect her, I appreciate her for her influence. She's the reason that I really don't give a fuck, you know, in a positive way, you know. She's the reason that I really embrace myself and my individuality, you know, and never allow the dictates of society to make me conform to their motherfucking whack-ass frequency. It's just what it is. If I conform to the rest of these motherfuckers, I'd be average like the rest of these motherfuckers. So shouts out to moms for that, you know, giving me the ability to stand on my own individuality and whatnot. But you get to a certain point and a certain level within yourself where I'm looking at people, and this goes for people in my childhood as well, but I'm beginning to look at certain people and miss them while they're still here, because for some reason it feels like they're no longer with me. It feels as if I've outgrown them, and now they've just become NPCs in my life. And it's going to be a weird trip, because these same people used to occupy a certain emotional space for you. These same people used to occupy a certain position in your life, in your relationship to the world that you live in. I don't believe most people have an awareness of self in a world and are aware of an external world and an internal self. I've always been that since I was a child, knowing that there was a world out there and that there was me. Even at the age of 2 and 3, I had realizations that it was the year 1996, it was the year 1997, and I was born in 1993. And the fact that I was born in 1993, that means 1992 existed. This is me at 4 years old, thinking with myself. 1992, 1990, 1989. This is a whole history of life that existed before I was even spawned. This is my conception of life at a very young age. So I say all that to say, you'll get to a level where the external world that you relate to, you will have grown so much that it will put you in an unfamiliar space. And when I say missing them while they're still here, it's almost as if people are dying in front of my face. Like, they're with me, but the connection that I'm feeling to people is as if they're dead, because that relationship, that way of relating to them, is no longer there. And when it comes to parents particularly, what most of you are going to, if you decide to undergo becoming your own man, becoming your own woman, becoming emotionally independent, becoming emotionally mature, responsible as a soul, becoming mature as a soul, you know, stepping into your own being, what's going to happen is you're going to begin to see them as their own people, that these individuals happen to be individuals themselves with their own background and their own context. Once you take the lens of mom, because lenses like mom and dad, and this is why a lot of you have a problem with dissociating with family members and you are easily manipulated emotionally. It's because you have these warped perceptions of people through particular lenses, and you give these lenses such as mom, dad, brother, quote unquote best friend since whenever, you give these people these meanings which obscure the fact that these are independent entities in the universe who have their own history, their own complexities, and potentially their own unsorted bullshit. You know, I say it all the time when I observe my parents, you know, now that I'm at this level, I am me and they are them, and I'm no longer dependent on any of them for anything that I need. In fact, I have more to give them than they could ever give me at this point, and I want to give to them, and I want to pour into them. But you get to this level where you start to feel this resistance because they're still trying to treat you, maybe potentially. I got a parent that's still trying to treat me like I'm the little boy that I once was. And they're having a hard time integrating that. One, I don't need them anymore. Two, their time is passing. Their time is up. I am now a man, and this is the position that they need to be in, learn how to receive. But you get to this point where you realize these are people with their own unsorted lives, and they may or may not have grown. And I ask myself all the time, like, if I didn't have to know these people, if these weren't my parents, these individuals that I was born through, I was made with this person's sperm and this person's egg and incubated in this person's womb because these two people at some convergence in the time-space continuum decided to have sex. This is real life. And I'm a byproduct of that intercourse, of that specific act in that specific moment in the time-space continuum. Would I know these people? Would I hang out with these people? Would I choose to associate with these people if I didn't have to know them? Now, my dad is some fucking 7-foot giant African from fucking Sudan, right? I'm a young Brooklyn nigga. My mom's is, you know what I'm saying, a woman from Brooklyn, but has Islamic context, but she's Brooklyn just like me. She's African American, Brooklyn, more influenced, Americanized, not like him, in a sense that, like, all right, boom, I'm saying what I'm saying to say, I don't think I would know or hang out with these people if I didn't have to know them. And the fact that I had to know them means that I've had to develop an affinity for them. But once you become your own man and become your own woman, you begin to afford a different level of perceiving the situation. And now I'm in a space where I have outgrown myself and outgrown the paradigms and the relativities and the relationships and the way of relating to particular people as people or particular entities or as objects, however you want to frame it. I live in a very objective space. I'm just not trying to dehumanize people as I speak. But these are individual people that now I feel as if I'm missing them before they're gone, because that perception, that level of ego has died. And it's not as if they are dead, they're still alive. But you have to also recognize that everybody that you're looking at will not be here at some point. And if they're your elders or people that you feel have been default characters in your life, like when my grandmother died, the biggest thing was like, these are certain people that you're born into life with, and you kind of take it for granted that you think they're always gonna be here. Like in your movie, in your storyline, nah, certain characters are gonna not be there at a certain point. So I look at people with this beautiful gaze because I live in the end. I'm living from the end. Some of us live on such time horizons and have massive conceptual awareness of the universe that we're living well beyond the moment. And when you recognize that everybody that you see is literally the living dead, everybody that you see is dying as you're watching, everybody's watching everyone die, you know, you kind of get this somber feeling of gratitude to still be able to lay eyes on them. But then you also have this level of, I wouldn't call it pity, but it's a level of sympathy, because you realize how much these people are just as human, if not damaged humans, as many people are. And I'm grateful for my dad. He did me the greatest service by taking me under his wing and allowing me to ride with him through a certain level of experience and affording me a level of experience. I'm grateful for my mom. I'm grateful for everything. But you get to a certain point where you will grow as an individual. This is if you choose, because everybody doesn't grow, everybody doesn't mature, everybody doesn't seek maturity. There are many adults or people who are up in biological age who are still mentally and spiritually immature. So mental, spiritual, and emotional maturity is a choice. And that's the true definition of a man or a woman. As you become more mentally, spiritually, emotionally independent, governing and managing your own resources, providing for yourself, and scaling your ability to provide for others, right? Because you're no longer a dependent, you're no longer receiving and benefiting, you're no longer a beneficiary, you become a benefactor, right? So once you get to that level, because most people are still, as they get older, still seeming and still wanting some form of handout, still wanting to be some type of beneficiary of someone else's efforts. The true man, the true woman, the true independent soul, the true elevated and evolved soul becomes a benefactor in the universe and is no longer a beneficiary. You no longer even seek to be a beneficiary of God, because what happens is you realize you've been given a chance at life that you've never deserved, and that's the definition of grace. The definition of grace is that which is bestowed or given, which is not earned by your individual merit. You did not do this to earn this, you were just given life. And most people have never broken the spell of living in an ungrateful, being an ingrate. They have never broken that spell to actually realize that they have everything they ever needed, and they've always made complaints about what they don't have based on what they want for what they're not willing to earn. Once you get into the fact that alhamdulillah, mashallah, subhanallah, you have life, you can't ever complain about anything else. Everything else is up to you. So for a person like me, I don't even beg God. I only ask for the guidance, and I ask to stay close to the way, to the deen, to the attributes of God. I don't ask God for anything. I don't pray and beg for anything. Most people are begging. Anyway, you get to this point where you're going to notice that people you know and love and have grown up with are becoming walking, talking NPCs. And it's going to be a weird feeling, but that's only going to be more of your call to sit deeper in the realization, to become a more compassionate individual, to become a more mature individual, and just to free yourself from their proximity. Because what you're going to realize is that the frequencies no longer vibrate. And once you're on a higher frequency, it's going to be imperative that you separate in order to continue to elevate. And that doesn't mean you have to cut people off in totality. You can always be someone and need to be someone that people can rely on when they need to rely on you. If they need to rely on you, you know, be prepared for that. But at the end of the day, some people are just fixed in their way. And no matter how much you try to pour into them, they may or may not be ready to transcend and evolve past the level that they've been operating at. Parents have to learn how to mature in relation to their children just as much as children need to learn how to transition and evolve in relation to their parents. But sometimes neither will mature. Just make sure you're the person who chooses to be the mature individual, the evolved individual. Just feel like this was a lesson that needed to be shared. It's really been on my heart. Consider the vibrations raised.